Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back after the coffee break. We hope you had time to chat with colleagues and friends about TVET issues and also enjoy the skill demonstration on aquatronics and the virtual reality aspects of it. Now we have a panel discussion on leveraging youth engagement for improved skills development. And this panel will be moderated by Ms. Anke Rasper. She's a senior editor at Deutsche Welle. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Liebe. And welcome back after the short coffee break. Welcome to our second panel this morning. And as we already heard, we're going to talk about the image of vocational training and technical education and how to engage young people in improving it. And before we start, remember we have a colleague here monitoring the Twitter account. So if any of you follow the session online or while you're here also indulge in virtual reality, we do encourage that. But you have to use this hashtag WYSD. We have it up there. No, we don't have it anymore, but it's easy to remember. W as in World Youth Skills Day. So if you have any questions throughout this panel, you can also post this question on Twitter, and Walter will monitor it, and we will try and incorporate it in our discussion later on. But let me first introduce you to the panelists. And we're starting with the lady in red, and that's Mrs. Marie-Josée Fortin from Canada. She's the Director of International Partnerships at colleges and institutes in Canada. She's based in Ottawa, and she represents more than 130 applied science colleges in the country. She has been involved in implementing TVET cooperation projects in many countries in Africa and South America and Asia. And she's also co-created the innovative Education for Employment approach and collaborates with governments all over the world in implementing and doing new education reforms. And they're always supposed to fit local needs. And as we've heard before, that's a major importance. And on the side, she's also the head of UNESCO-UNEVOC in North America. Ms. Fortin, of course, holds a degree in education, but in a secret conversation she told me she also has a sound background in TVET education herself, because she's a trained hotel manager as well. So thank you for joining us on the panel today. Mr. Joachim James Calleja is the director of the European Centre for the Development of Vocational Training that's based in Greece, and he's the man next to the lady in red. That's Cedefop, as you all know, probably. The centre is helping the EU and its member states to develop vocational education policies. And Mr. Calleja holds a PhD in political philosophy and education. He has been involved in the education sector for many years, and he's also been serving in many high-ranking positions in various institutions, but also he's worked for the Maltese government, including as a permanent secretary for the Ministry of Education and Employment in Malta. So we're very pleased to have you here. Our next panelist, Hendrik Foss, is the one on the rim out there, on the edge, and he's often in Bonn, but based in Berlin. He heads the Department of Vocational Education and Training at the German Confederation of Skilled Crafts and Small Businesses. That's ZDH. And that's actually the central organization for more than 130 skilled crafts. That's from carpentry to hairdressing in Germany. We've already heard a bit about the German system, and Mr. Foss has insight in that, of course. As part of his job, Mr. Foss is an expert for educational and labor market policies and, of course, international cooperation and vocational training. He also holds a doctoral degree in economics. He is also involved in the German national and the Euroskills championships for young talents. So he's very familiar with the kinds of challenges posed to our next panelists, all of whom have been very successful in various national and international competitions in their fields. And our very first skills champion this morning is Miss Aliyah Wedderburn. She's joined us from Jamaica, and as I said, like all our youth panelists, her TVET successes have taken her to many countries, not just Germany today, but she's been to Japan, Canada, the US, and she started out with cosmetology training in high school in St. Elizabeth's back home, and TVET courses were part of the curriculum at that school. She is now a very successful beauty services practitioner and also an instructor, so she knows both sides. Alia heads the School of Cosmetology at a community college. She's creative, she's open-minded and eager to explore new parts of her fields, which she did, for instance, yesterday because she visited a beauty parlor and a place where young people are educated in Cologne, next door here to Bonn, and had some adventures there. She believes that beauty goes a lot deeper than the skin and beyond makeup, hair and nails, and that also goes for prejudices around her field. Alia has recently completed her master's degree in leadership in TVET and workforce placement. And from the way I got to know her through our conversations, I think that's not going to be the last leg of her journey. It's not going to stop her. Welcome to the panel, Alia. Mr. Mohammad Issa, who also wears a green badge like we all, is from Lebanon. He's a computer engineer and a young entrepreneur. He provides workshops for young people and has also served as a mentor in technology projects in schools and colleges. He's worked also for several IT companies, for instance, in recruiting young talent. And he found that there's often a huge mismatch between the skills required by the companies and those that the students learn at college. I hope he will tell us a bit more about that. And for him, everything started when he tried to set up a remote control for a toy car when he was a young teenager. And that was part of a school project. And he needed to learn a lot of things which he couldn't learn. So he taught a lot. He taught himself a lot via the internet and various sources, and because the training was simply not available at the time to him. So he now tries to make technology more accessible to everyone. For instance, in an innovation club he's co-founded. And one of his mottos is, difficult challenges are great opportunity to find creative solutions. And maybe that's a bit of the motto of what you all do. Thank you for being here, Mohammad. And last but not least, here's Mr. Barthélémy Deutsch, and we've already been introduced to his cocktail skills, but you'll have to sit out till the very end to get those. Bart is originally from Belgium, but he's currently actually working in Scotland. And he's there for several months working as a waiter. I would say actually a butler, because it's a very posh, really, really, really expensive hotel. And yes, I asked him, he does have to wear a kilt. And that's one of the many challenges people in TVET training have to meet, because it's very windy in the Highlands, isn't it? Yeah. So sometimes you need a lot of creative solutions, including safety pins in the right spots. The Scotland placement is part of his university studies in business and hospitality management in Belgium. And that he studies now is probably a consolation for his dad, because when Bart first said he wants to become a waiter, or he wants to go into the restaurant business, his dad, who's a lawyer, was not convinced. He tried to be a bit less enthusiastic and told him about the long working hours and the hard work, and it would be difficult to work in a hotel and you'd always have to work when your friends have fun, but he persisted. You know, 15-year-olds can be very, very strong-minded. And Bart first wanted to become a chef, and so he started a culinary school, but as part of the training they also had, of course, to do other things that you have to do in hotels and restaurants. And he loved being a waiter, surprisingly. So he changed his fields. He told me he can still cook, but being a waiter is even more fun. And as he is really good at what he does, this profession has taken him to many different amazing spots, like this today. And Bart now says that many of his friends who've gone straight to university feel that his work is much more interesting than hers. Welcome to all the panelists. And We'll have Mr. Calleja start with a keynote address in just a moment, but I thought, as we're all already converted, let's do a quick audience poll. How many of you have undergone TVET training yourself at some point? Okay. It's about, I would say, 1/5, maybe. Yes. And who's got someone in the family who works or trains in TVET right now or has done that? It's a little bit more, but not that much. So it seems that we really have to work on the image here, and that's what we're going to try and do. Mr. Calleja from Cedefop will now tell us more about the issues underlying our topic today. Please.
Well, thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. I have been asked to be formal, informal, and non-formal at the same time. Is that correct? So when I woke up this morning, I looked at the question again because I had some doubts about it. Because to ask the director of a 41-year-old research institute on VET to talk about the poor image of VET is devastating, to say the least, no? Imagine you are a catering research institute and you are asked to talk about the poor image of the culinary sector to a distinguished audience such as you, the audience we have today. This is the reality. So I am the director of an EU institute, and I have been asked to talk about the poor image of VET. So what has happened over these 41 years to ask a director to talk about poor quality of VET? This is the key question that I asked myself this morning before coming here. And I must say it is a very pertinent question. And my conclusion is that for 41 years we have been stressing about evidence, we have been stressing about analysis, we have been stressing on new knowledge, but we have not stressed about implementation. What is happening on the ground? How all these theories, these research findings, are being translated into the real world of VET is the key question, which I think this panel should discuss with yourselves, with your contributions and your questions. And the evidence of having a poor image of VET is clear. Look at the statistics. Marian Tyson, the commissioner who's responsible for VET, has said recently, we have 70 million low-skilled adults. We have 4.2 young people who are neither in education or in training or in employment. From our own research, a European survey on jobs and skills, we discovered that 40% of employees interviewed are very unhappy with the mismatch between their qualifications and what they are actually doing on their places of work. Not to speak of unemployment, youth unemployment, which is rampant in many regions and many localities across Europe. And therefore, it is quite legitimate to speak about the poor image of VET and the effects of a poor image of VET. At the end of the day, of course, we can talk about the poor image of VET, but the bottom line is that we have the poor state of many young and adult European workers and learners who are unhappy with their situation as learners and as workers. Now let me be positive. The good news is, from our own analysis, from the work that the Commission undertakes to promote VET, is that more and more member states are embracing VET reform, placing reforms top on their political agenda. The good news is also that more European policies, more European tools, such as the European Qualifications Framework, such as the Quality Assurance Framework, and many other tools are being adopted and adapted by member states. And member states are seeing a change in the perception of vocational education and training at national regional and local contexts. We have also the European Alliance for Apprenticeships, which is, again, putting work-based learning in the forefront, showing that skills can be acquired not just by sitting and listening, but by doing. Talk is increasing also on the validation of informal and non-formal learning. And we know that there are many, many skills in the labour market which are not recognized, which are not qualified, and therefore people have no access to employment. We know that more governments are talking about the need for key competences. Young people coming out of compulsory education with very low skills in writing, in arithmetic, in IT, in entrepreneurial skills, in behavioral skills. So what is happening in compulsory education? Reducing VET to a clinic to try to remedy what should have happened in those 100 or 110 months of formal learning. The skills guarantee, which I'm sure you've heard about, which is part of the skills agenda, should remedy the situation in the near future. The good news is also that at least 50% of member states have campaigns to attract more people to vocational education and training. So very quickly, because the question is clear, what are the key issues that we need to talk about? I think the key issue that we need to talk about is that the talking should start walking, that we should start taking action in the member states, and that the policies and tools should be applied and not left on the shelves. Because there are at least, and I'll quickly go through them, 10 indicators that for me this morning have shown me that yes, VET is not on average or attractive, but it's in a poor state. First, quality assurance. The reputation of a learning organization, institution, being private or public, is extremely important. The first thing you say when you introduce yourself is that my degree is from the University of X or of Y, because X and Y have a good reputation, and reputation equals quality assurance. Secondly, there's a poor image of VET because permeability has found so many walls between VET and higher education, and your qualification is not recognized, and you haven't done enough, and this is not up to standards, and this we do not recognize. Third, the socio-cultural perspective and the perceptions. VET, okay, it's a second option, or no option whatsoever. Go for private tuition, don't go for VET. So the public perception of VET is reducing VET to a poor standard and a poor image. Then there is the issue of restricted funding, the low prestige in governance. When we talk about funding, if you look at the Erasmus+, you will see the difference between the funding for higher education and the funding for VET. It's about 22% as against 60%, for your information. There is the fear to reform. There is a slower pace in VET when you compare it to higher education in Europe. Of course, VET is much more complex, but if you look at higher education at universities prior to 1999, you will see a very, very complex situation in Europe, which now has been rectified by the Bologna process. I insist, with the Copenhagen process, this must be rectified as well, and we cannot drag our feet anymore. The learning environments that students are in which very often in compulsory education, they are not being acquainted to the added value of what vocational education and training is all about. And this links to what I call blinkered guidance and counseling. At least in my country, but in also other countries, I've heard many stories of guidance and counseling talking only about higher education, only about degrees, only about universities. Then we talk about the poor job offers to VET qualified people. So if you go for VET qualifications, expect a low salary. We talk about teacher training. So to teach in primary education, you need a qualification. To go for secondary education, you need a qualification. To go for VET, any qualification will do for VET. And this is one of the Riga deliverables that I hope that by 2020 we will achieve the objective of having institutionalized VET teacher training. Then there is the disagreement between the complementarity of skills for jobs and skills for life. And therefore we separate skills for life, this is the education sector. Skills for jobs, this is the employment sector. And unless we bridge the complementarity between these two, we will still have, as today, a poor image of VET. And finally, the recognition of qualifications within the private sector and within private sectorial sectors, which I think Mr. Thiele this morning was referring to. We drag our feet in trying to recognize these qualifications. It's very slow, complicated, very often not offering parity of esteem to national qualifications. So to conclude, I think we need to do two things, one of which I have already mentioned. We need to move from evidence, analysis, new research and knowledge to implementation. Secondly, we need to match the image of VET to images of successful people like the ones we have on the podium today, young people, but also images of people whom we know, who have been successful in life, but they haven't been successful in life because of universities or higher education, but because of vocational education and training. I will stop here for the moment.
Thank you, Mr. Calleja, for your points. And of course, we now have to go a little bit deeper, and you will during the course of this whole event, the next 2 days. But now, let's go to our youth experts first on this panel, and then open it to the larger panel. And then I try, if we still have enough time, to open it to you all, and also to ask whether there's any questions from Twitter and our hashtag. But let's start with Bart, maybe, because when we were preparing it, you told me, Bart, that that a lot of people in Belgium still think, TVET, it's really bad image. Would you say that this image, that vocational training is only for the dummies, those who are not good at school, who can't succeed, really is?
Yeah, actually it's one of the images that TVET studies has. For example, when I switch to those kind of studies and I start to talk about it to my friends and to people who I was meeting, the very first question after they knew that I was doing that was, did you choose it or have you been obliged to be there? Meaning, have you failed in regular studies, so you had to do something else? And it took time to explain that I actually choose that and I actually enjoy what I'm doing. It's not because I cannot do something else. And this is the image that still remains for those kind of study, and that's what it's bad. It's not a choose. Well, we don't choose that because we fail. We choose that because we want to win something else. And I think that's where it comes from, because those questions were coming from the young people which were my classmates before. So if that's what they have in their mind, it makes sense that they will not change for TVET studies. So yeah, the image of study for dummies is still quite strong in Belgium.
Mohammad, in Lebanon, how well do young people know about TVET options they might have? Do they know anything about it? What is it like?
Well, actually, for me, when I was born, I had 3 options only, and it's usually in Lebanon, either to be a doctor, an engineer, or a lawyer. So, but for me, I had to choose a different option. I went through computer engineering through the university, but before that, if really the VET had the curriculum that I was looking into, I would definitely went into VET, but because of the outdated curriculum that we had for the VET, and especially in technology and ICT, I went through university to acquire these skills. And even though at the university, usually students, when they finish or even before they finish their degree, they go into private training centers to acquire technical skills through some kind of special trainings by big IT companies like Microsoft and Cisco. And even though they could have these all skills before even getting into college. I mean, the college, it gives you other skills, but mainly the skills that are needed by the industry is mainly you can acquire them through either VET if they have an updated curriculum, and through the other training stuff. So there's a lot of challenges regarding the technical skills and the VET. For me, through my experience, I saw there's a big skills gap, and to support that, 2 days ago, Microsoft introduced a professional degree to fill this skill gap in the technology field. And also, I can see there's a lot of opportunities. I'm not going to talk a lot about the negative stuff, but I see a lot of opportunities for all the young people to start acquiring skills, because the number of even telecommute jobs you can work at home is increasing rapidly. If you want, you can be a virtual assistant, you can be a project manager, a programmer. From home, you can work all of these, and you are getting paid very well also.
Maybe we can maybe get a bit deeper into that in a little bit.
Yeah, sure.
But it's already visible how enthusiastic you are about it, and also about the opportunities despite all the challenges. But I think we also have to talk a bit about the challenges.
All right.
Aliyah, you and actually all of you three have told me that by doing your skills training, the TVET training, you have actually learned a lot more than just the work skills you need for your immediate work. Could you give us maybe a personal example or two? And how do you think that's different from just going to university?
Okay, I would have to start the answer at the beginning of my journey. I entered high school as a straight A student. However, you know, there are different factors, different things that may distract you while being a student in high school. And I started to do not so well. And this was in a traditional academic high school situation. So the thing is, you are usually very brilliant to attend that high school. And some way, somehow, I asked for a transfer to another school that gave me the chance to pursue cosmetology. And this is where my life really transformed. So though I was engaged in these skills, the fact that I was able to excel, that allowed me to focus on my high school experience and to start doing better. I was a very shy person, extremely. The fact that I'm now here, being able to speak to all these leaders before me, I owe that to TVET. It really empowers you, and it's not just the fact that I've had an eventful TVET experience, but the fact that you are exposed to competency-based learning. You start to live your life in a competency-based way. You look at what you can do and how you can do it. In terms, if I should compare that to my university experience, my tertiary experience has been very practical. So it's a TVET journey that I've taken through university. So it hasn't been separate. So on my courses, whether at the bachelor's level or at the master's degree, was very practical. We were able to express what we were learning in a practical way. So fortunately for Jamaica, because we have TVET exposure at the tertiary level, it has been something that has traveled through with me.
Talking about empowerment.
Yes, empowerment.
Thank you, Aliyah. We'll definitely get back later to the maybe permanent permeability of these different systems. But Herr Foss, I would like to go back to the German system for a minute. We already heard a little bit about that earlier on. And the skilled crafts in Germany actually have a big part of the apprenticeships on offer that are available in Germany. 370,000 every year. And I read that this year not all places are taken already, but that despite the really good system, people don't apply for them. Not enough people apply for them. So what do you do to boost these numbers and to improve the image of apprenticeships in the world of skilled crafts?
Yes, thank you. You're right. And I would like to stress out and underline what Mr. Calleja just said about the challenges we have in the system. Although we have this, as Mr. Thiele said this morning, this quite quite good system in Germany of the dual education and the in-company training. We still have a lack of about 20 to 30,000 training places in skilled crafts companies every year. And the important thing is that every institution, all stakeholders of this system in Germany, the government, the industry, the skilled craft sector, the social partner, everybody has to do what they can to support this. And I think that in the last decade, it changed the mentality, especially on the national level, on the politician level, that some years ago everybody says university is the best way. The politicians said so, the ministries, the teachers, and the parents, of course. So as you just said, for young people, it's just an option. Do I make it to university or not? This is kind of changing now, but we have to work together on this topic. So what can we, the companies and the economy do is to stress out that we do not only offer training places or apprenticeship places, but we offer attractive career perspectives. So I would like to focus on what you said about permeability. This means it's not an option, either you go this way or you go the other way, but we have to offer attractive pathways and very individual pathways, not by mixing both systems, because they have their relevance on their own, the academic system and the vocational system. But what I was wondering this morning, I heard sometimes some people saying TVET or vocational education or higher education. This was, I was wondering, well, is this higher education meaning not possible in TVET? In my opinion, it really is. In Germany, we have, when we talk about higher education, it's both, either vocational education or academic education. And then, of course, you have to be attractive in yourself or in the system in itself. For example, when we try to convince high school graduates not to go to university but to come to us first and have a look and maybe go to university afterwards, we talk about the perspective, the attractive skills they can learn, the practical work, the work with customers, with colleagues, and so on. So what I think is that everybody has to do what they can to change this, and we are working together, like with the government, with the social partner, the trade unions, and especially with the teachers. This is very important, that we do a very broad orientation in general schools before they have to decide this. So we have to tell teachers that it's not only an option and the best option to go to university, but that we meaning the skilled craft sector or the VET sector, have attractive alternatives. And we are in a process now, and it takes some time, but I think, as I said, it's changing in the last, let's say, last decade, and this is good.
So it seems there's still a lot to do, and it has a lot to do with information and getting information to people at the right moment in their lives as well. And that's also something that I think you are doing, Ms. Fortin, in the colleges, because you're sort of an in-between stage. You're doing applied sciences, but they're very practical minded, and you get a lot of people who went to university, can't find a job, and then they come to you. How popular is that kind of training as an alternative to university? It's not just the dropouts that come.
No, but before that, I would like to add, I'm not a youth, but I would like to feel like a youth. And in my case, I would like to add the point that I make the choice at the time to go in a technical and vocational training, because to be different than the others. And after I went to study in education, but in counseling, exactly to change the world, or to participate to change the world, because I believe honestly, and we need to we need to showcase that I believe in the training of TVET. And students can go to university. It's a pathway after if they want. My son just graduated, and less than 2 weeks after, he got 3 offers for a job. He got a full-time job. I'm proud of that. And he will go to university, maybe, if he wants.
And you told me that the people who do go to university, many of them don't find jobs, and then 23% of your students are coming from university.
Yeah.
So
I will explain now, because in Canada, it's a little bit different than in Europe, our system. We first, more than 80% of the industry in Canada is small and medium enterprise. We need to go with that reality first. Another reality, we have 13 systems of education in Canada because it's a provincial and territorial jurisdiction. That's mean with different nuance between one and the other. But in the global way, with the exception of one, what we offer, I will use the name college, but depending of where you are, it can be a polytechnic, institute, colleges, but I will use the name colleges. It's not the same level as in Latin America, by the way. We working from the apprenticeship to technological, applied degree, and postgrad in the same institution. And that's helping a lot for the image. This is the first element. In Canada, because you mentioned about apprenticeship, it's not so popular than in Germany. Normally it's limited to the skilled trades like carpenters, electrician, pipe filters, and attract more older students than youth. Yeah. And normally they have a lot of experience in the market already. But we have a lot of dropout in our case because students need to pay for the tuition fees. And industry, sometimes we have problem to encourage them to pay for their 2 years of training, just to see the difference between our two countries.
So you would say you'd have old plumbers and young students?
They're older. But at the same time, we have RIT seal. The government of Canada have the RIT seal to make sure that we have the standard.
That's a quality seal, yeah.
Yeah. And I can say in our model in Canada, we have a comprehensive, is the key buzzword for our system. We have a different point of entry and pathways. It's important. You can go, and you talk about 22%. In our college, we have across Canada, 22% of our students did at least 1 year of university or have a bachelor degree. And for the province of Ontario only, it's more than 40%.
So it's very successful.
Yes, because it's
applied.
It's applied, and it's with the applied research. It's applied research. It's a way, and we will talk about as a teacher, but as student too, about what we do in applied research. It's not big thing. It's not big research, but it's why we have a college. It's to serve the community where we are. And if they have a problem, the college have the obligation to help the industry to solve the problem.
Let's apply some problem solving to the panel as well. I think. And I'm sorry because I have to cut people a little bit short because we have so little time here this morning and I want to squeeze in as much as possible. And maybe I want to ask you, Mr. Calleja, very briefly, you already gave a very comprehensive list of challenges to the image of TVET. What do you think is the most or the worst, the most common reason for this underlying bad image? Is it lack of information, bad teacher training? What do you think is the worst bit of this?
I will tap the experience I have had in my small country, Malta. So what really changed the perception and image of VET in my country were, first, the Ministry of Education and the Ministry of Employment were joined together. So we have one voice for education and employment and not two voices as we used to have before. Secondly, we reorganized the many colleges, by many I should say there were about 12 colleges, into one college for vocational education training. These have developed into 3 now colleges, one for foundation courses, the other for technical, and the third for university college. So awarding degrees, is my third point, has changed the perception of parents. So my son goes to a university college and he gets a bachelor's degree. And her son goes to university and gets the same bachelor's degree. They are on the same level with the same parity of esteem, with a difference. The people in vocational training get the job before they finish their course. The employers run after these students because the employers and the social partners are part of the governing structure. The university students have to wait 6 months, 1 year to get a job because the exposure is much less than in vocational education training. I think, from my experience, what really kills VET is having qualifications with dead ends. This is what has killed vocational training in my country for many years, having qualifications with no prospects of permeability. Secondly, to portray VET as not being part of the higher education sector also kills VET very quickly, and therefore the colleges of applied sciences in Switzerland is a good example, and the same in Germany. In Switzerland, the colleges of applied sciences or universities of applied sciences attract more students than they do in the universities, and they generate more apprenticeship positions or courses than they can actually take. It's 48,000 per year, 49,000 per year, and only 46 places can be filled up. Why? Because parents push their children into vocational education training. The difference is that in Switzerland and in other countries in Europe, because this is my world, of course, it is a culture. VET a culture, not an educational system. When it becomes a culture, it means it has filtered into the family structure. It has been accepted by parents. Once it's accepted at that level, then the whole society can rest assured that VET will make a change to the economy.
So we hear the importance of the whole system changing and supporting, a whole culture supporting that, the educators, the setup around it, the policies, and of course the people involved. Now, all of you people on the panel here are, of course, very convinced already, and you're skilled champs, you're exceptionally good. For instance, the young people here are exceptionally good at your jobs, and you get recognition for that. But how about these long work hours, Bart? And how about the bad image? How about all these people who are normal in your profession? You're just normal hairdressers and normal IT engineers and normal waiters. How do you convince other people that they could just be having a happy life as an average person in a VET, as a non-champion?
Well, for my part, I would say that I'm not happy in my life because I'm here or because I'm excelling in my job. I'm happy in my life because I'm doing my job. What I like in my job is being around with people, talking, make sure that everything is perfect for them, and create an experience around their dinner time. So that's why I didn't choose to excel and to be the one of whatever. But that's why I think people have to understand, if they like to be around with people also, if they also like, as me, whatever I just explained, well, that's why they should they should go into TVET studies. It's the same way they can be happy as a regular lawyer, for example. Not the most successful one. Well, I'm sure they will be happy as not the most successful waiter or whatever. Just about understanding, those differences.
How do you convince Alia and Mohammad people who might just be average people?
Interestingly, I may have to make reference to Bob Marley to answer this question. In one of his songs, he says, "In the abundance of water, the fool is thirsty." You have the skill, you have the opportunities, but if you do not have a personal goal, something that you really want to achieve from being a TVET practitioner, you will be unable to pull on all these opportunities. All the exposure that we've gotten, I'm sure we had other persons in our classes, in our workplaces who had the same opportunities, but then do you have it in you to really go out and get it? To be TVET and to have a normal life, I don't think it's possible. Really, you are not utilizing TVET to its fullest. So you may not win a competition, but then you should be able to set an example in your community. You should be able to influence others. So it's not on the level that you are able to accomplish it. So it doesn't have to be international. It can be that you've inspired another little girl to follow your footsteps. Because I started my interest in hairdressing because I went to a salon with my mother and I would watch what the hairdresser was doing, and I'm like, even as a little girl, I wonder if I'll be able to do that. So just by doing your job and doing it well and making use of the opportunities, when there are competitions, enter these competitions. When there's a chance to expose yourself to another environment, take the chance and make the best of it.
Thank you. Mohammad, do you want to add?
Actually, for me, I don't think that I don't agree with that they are normal jobs. I think every single job could be very interesting depending on the person. How does he do his job? If it is vocational, if it's a job done by vocational education, I think it would be very interested by how does he or she does the job, and the social impact of what he is planning to do.
Thank you, Mohammad. Wouter just told me that there seems to be a question on Twitter. Maybe we can open the panel for the last few minutes to you all, and we'll take the Twitter question or questions first. Wouter, please.
Yeah, thanks for that. It's lucky that we've got a cable here because it's going crazy. So many likes flying around, so it's very engaging discussion, and thank you for so far. We got one question from, I hope I can pronounce the name correct, Akaya and Kurama. What resources are available for young people to build business skills and be mentored? Maybe that's a question for the young World Skills Champions.
Okay, maybe one more, if you have one more.
Yeah, and one more, I guess, which is related to what was being said earlier. There was one tweet which kind of made reference to wages, and is it true that when you have a university degree that you earn better than if you have a TVET degree? Okay.
Maybe that's a question to Mr. Foss and the others. But let's ask, what about the building business skills and mentoring question?
Okay, so right now there's a lot of support to the entrepreneurship field. For example, a lot of education institutions are forcing, I guess, the entrepreneurship courses at at schools or at the universities. So this is a good start for somebody if want to go to the business field. He would get introduction into every part of business, which could be for him a way so that he know if he wants to go with this journey or not.
Thank you, Mr. Foss. The wages question. People get more money, no?
Thank you very much, because this is one of the most popular prejudices of VET, especially in Germany, wages and the employment or the employability, the employment rate. We were very lucky that last year or the year before, our National Employment Agency, they discovered, or they made two reports. One about the life earnings, meaning how much money do people get in their whole life. And when they compared academics to what we call Meister, this is the continuing education, the initial dual education you do first, and then you get your Meister qualification on the bachelor degree. And they found out that it's exactly the same, meaning 2.0 million euros in their whole lives. So there's no difference in this. And the second thing is very visual, that the unemployment rate of academics in Germany is extremely low. It's about 2.6% or something. But the unemployment rate of VET-trained young people on this level, the comparable level, is much less. It's about 2.0 or 1.9%. So both of these figures still are in the minds of people, of parents, of teachers, and we have to make this public, to tell people, no, it's not that you earn less. Of course, if you look into individual careers, of course there is one high-class doctor or professor or whatever, he earns a lot more than the ordinary plumber. But the possibility to earn money is equal in both sectors.
And I remember that you told me an evidential story from going through a parking lot when you have a meeting in your ZTH.
In the chambers. The interesting thing is when the chamber advisors guide young people through this process about career opportunities, they talk about the possibilities in the skilled craft sector and the VET sector, and young people say, well, but my parents say something. And then they go down to the parking lots and say, okay, now guess on which side the employees of the chamber or the academics cars are parking, and on which side the company owners' cars are parking, where all the huge, Porsche and all these kinds. This is visually that, of course, you have the possibility to earn a lot in VET if you do it well, if you do not stay where you are, if you continue learning, if you have your own company, there are great possibilities. And we have to get this to society to achieve what you just said, that we need this as a culture and not as a system.
And we've got a young entrepreneur here who wants to add.
Yeah, I want to add. I was working with a company. They had a big factory. Actually, the factory manager, he didn't have a university degree. He was just a graduate of a vocational institution. And he's now leading around 20 engineers who are all having university degrees. So this adds up for the question before. Yeah, you didn't. It's not up to, if you want. You have to have a university degree to get high positions. You can be just a vocational institution graduate, and you can get also highly paid.
And maybe we've got the time for one question from the floor, if there is any. Oh, there's so many. Okay, the two gentlemen were the first, sitting on the right.
My name is Sadri. For many years, I was the General Director of Higher Technical Vocational Education in Islamic Republic of Iran. 20 years back, we faced with a serious problem. It was regarding the prestige and image of the youth toward the technical vocational education. At that time, in secondary education, we established an stream under the title of Kar Danesh in Persian. It means knowledge and work. In Arabic, Ma'rafat wal Amal. Actually, a student was supposed to take 49 credit unit and secondary, general secondary, and 49 unit in the workplaces. The applicant toward coordination has grown up so much. According to that, we opened the UAST, University of Applied Science and Technology, for the youth. Almost the number of applicants has increased. Right now, 30% of the students in secondary education as an enrollment rate is 35% of secondary education in technical education. And a good number of applicants for the higher education. I have a question. We have already changed the image a little bit. Is there any possibility, any way else to change the attitude of the society toward technical vocational education, except opening the university? Thank you very much.
Okay, maybe let's take the second question briefly and then answer them in a row. What's the second question?
Actually,
No, the man behind you, excuse me. We are very short in time now, and I would like to give the opportunity to the gentleman sitting behind you to ask the second question for the panel. Thank you.
Okay, and thank you. My name is Jos Helmans. I'm a former Dean of Business School from the Netherlands, and now, after my retirement, I'm an advisor to United Nations University for their sustainability program. I just want to underline what Mr. Calleja and Mr. Voss have said. There may be a misunderstanding in the Bologna system in Europe. There is no talking about bachelors or masters. The Bologna Declaration doesn't mention the bachelors or masters. They talk on education of the first level, the second level, and the third level. We translated in our common language the first level as being a bachelor, and the second level as being a master, and the third level as being a doctorate, a PhD. Now, several countries in Europe have understood it very practical, like Germany or my own country, Holland or Switzerland, and they maintain their binary system, saying and stating that the first level of bachelors, but there was no talking on bachelor, the first level is equally ready for vocational studies as well as for research, academic studies. The same goes for the second level. And the result of this is that in my home country in Holland, 72% of all first subscriptions to higher education go to vocational education, and only 28% of the last figures I have seen is for research academies. This is because people are not afraid anymore.
What exactly is the question?
My point is that perhaps, as an answer to the previous question, the prestige for vocational training comes also from governments when stating that everybody who wants to go into higher education can equally go to TVET or to research academies. It's as good.
And you don't have a question. That was an answer to the first time. Okay. Mr. Calleja, I think, also wanted to answer the question, right?
Very quickly, because I know time is pressing. The question about whether university degrees pay more is interesting. Some research, which I have read, but I have forgotten the source. I'm sorry about this. That the traditional, one has to distinguish between traditional careers and the new careers. So IT, financial services, gaming, aviation, shipping. If you go into such sectors, the pay is much more than if you go into the traditional career route. So this was one of the items that has been flagged by a professor even in our own university. It was a joke at my home university when you see the reserved parking for professors, the cars there, and you compare the reserved parking for the support staff. We used to call this vintage territory and the avant-garde territory. The difference between the cars was quite significant because they had the opportunity to be freelancers after the university work, and therefore it paid to be a vet profession. Secondly, it's a very daunting question to change attitudes of society. I think what VET really lacks at this point in time is better marketing of the potential that it has. There's very little marketing, very little communication. We are never present in Euronews and CNNs and these big mega networks. Education is never there. VET is absolutely absent in such networks. And secondly, as I was saying before, quality, which moves into proper certification. By proper, I mean quality certification, which leads into tangible and real jobs in the labor markets.
Thank you. And I'm very sorry that we have to cut this short here, but I will not want to have the last word on this panel. I would like to give it to you all, and you get a very little nutshell for your recipe, how things can get better. Say it in one sentence or two. You know, it's an easy question. How do you make it technical and vocational training more attractive to young people? What will you do to do that? All of you, and already thank you very much from my side for this very interesting panel. You're welcome.
In the beginning, you asked a question to the audience, how many of the persons here had the TVET experience, and we think of the fact that the stigma that is associated with TVET is worldwide. I think that though we have bodies like UNESCO-UNEVOC creating fulsome policies, there is a gap between the policy created here and when it gets to us on the ground. And I'm speaking as a student, so clearly there is an issue among our leaders. Is it that we all truly believe in TVET? Is it that we embrace TVET positively? Where did the stigma come from? The students don't have the stigma. So the question then is for us to really just reflect on that. Where did the stigma come from? And as leaders, what can we really do to change the stigma? Because it may be very well coming from the top. And it is affecting us. It is affecting us as students. It is affecting us at the bottom, okay? And that's where I am.
We've got 2 days to discuss this. Bart, what's your recipe?
Well, for me, I had a huge help from an organization. I would like to thank WorldSkills International. That was the moment where I could change myself from just a TVET worker to actually a real worker and be very proud of it. All that they do for the TVET, to promote TVET organization is amazing. And that's with this organization that I realized that actually, because of them I've been everywhere, and because of them that I'm here today. So whatever you do, if you're good in it, you can go very far, and that's what I learned from them.
Thank you. Mohammad?
Shortly, I would tell them that to do what they love, because no matter what they choose, they will get into a very successful journey.
Mr. Calleja.
Just one sentence. Where in member states where VET is strong, unemployment is very low. Check the statistics and you will realize that this is true.
Madam Fortin?
Okay, we need to work as a team with a common language between education, government, business, community. We need to work all together. We need to give the opportunity to the youth through entrepreneurial and other kind of skill to be part of a resolution problem in their community. We need to be less theoretical, but balance of practical and essential skill. It's important. We didn't talk about that, but it's a must. And it's engaging student and IT. We didn't talk about IT, but it's a must.
Well, you still have the opportunity to talk about that among yourselves. Mr. Foss, you've got the last word.
Yeah, thanks. I think 3 areas are important. First, as you just said, we have to involve all relevant stakeholders, and they have to do what they can to improve the system and not work against each other, like employers, trade unions, politicians, not saying that academic pathways are the best. Second, the system itself has to be comprehensive. It has to be linked to the general education system. It has to be linked to the academic education system, and of course linked to the labor market and the needs of companies. And it has to allow mobility, regional and in the pathway. And then third, think about going public. I mean, we in the Skillcraft sector in Germany, we have an image campaign where we try to convince public of the advantages of our sector and of the vocational education. But of course you have to do orientation in school, and so you have to prepare teachers to do this in a proper way. You have to tell politicians how important this system is, and to convince them to go public with this in their way. And of course we need sustainable research on VET. We need these figures, these numbers, these arguments from institutions like Cedefop. Without this, it's just talking and no proof.
So I'm glad that there's such an amazing bunch of interested people on this panel, very well informed, and I'm sure that you will find better solutions maybe on this in these next 2 days as well. Thank you very much on my behalf for all your wonderful participation and input here on the panel, and also from you in the audience and out there, whoever sent these tweets. Thank you very much. It was a pleasure to meet you all, and I wish you a successful conference. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for this very enriching panel discussion. I think there were some great examples and arguments for TVET that are going to be inspiring for all of us and give reason to carry this message forward.